On Monday morning, Rush and Lance woke up on the living room floor in front of the fireplace. The fire had burned out, but the embers were still glowing in red and orange. The night before, they'd roasted chestnuts over an open fire, made love on an antique oriental carpet, and fallen asleep in each other's arms. And now they were lying in a spoon position, covered with a thick white comforter. They were both naked, and Lance's erection was rubbing against Rush's lower back. Rush smiled and backed into Lance. He arched his back, wiggled his hips up and down a few times, and said, "I hope you have another condom down here. Let's do it on our sides this time. We haven't done that in a while." Lance grunted and pushed his hips forward. "On the table next to the wing chair," he said. "I brought a few condoms with me last night." They were lying in front of the wing chair, and the table wasn't far away. While Rush reached out from under the comforter for the condom, the telephone rang. Lance grabbed his ass and said, "Don't get it. Let it ring." Then he slipped his fingers between Rush's ass and probed his anus with 2 fingers. "But it could be important," Rush said. There was something about the way Lance used his fingers that made Rush's eyes roll back. "I have to see who it is. It could be Aunt Julia in Florida." His mother's huge old telephone didn't have caller ID. It was on the table next to the condoms. He reached for it while Lance was still probing his hole and said, "Hello?" "Have you seen the New York Times this morning?" Cody shouted into the phone. "I almost fell over." Rush shook his head and rubbed his eyes. "No, we just woke up." He looked at Lance and shrugged his shoulders. "Lance and I are in the kitchen right now just having coffee." He didn't want Cody to know they were naked and that Lance's fingers were inside his body. "Well," Cody said, "you've got to see the paper, dude. There's a photo of both you and Lance standing in front of a car that has a fucking deer stuck in the grill." "You're kidding," Rush said. He noticed Cody's voice sounded too urgent. His sentences ran together and he didn't even fully pronounce some words. Rush wondered if he'd been taking stimulants. Roy had mentioned Cody was taking things to maintain his energy level. "And there's a whole article about how you and Lance saved the deer on Saturday night," Cody said. Rush sat up. He pulled the covers back. By that time, Lance had removed his hand from between Rush's legs and he was lying there holding his erect penis in the palm of his hand. "Here," Rush said. "Say hello to Lance while I go out front and get the paper. I've got to see this." Then he handed the phone to Lance and said, "We're in the Times this morning. I'm going outside to get it." His mother had always subscribed to the New York Times. She'd been a firm believer in reading newspapers. Lance took the phone and covered the bottom half with his palm. "Can't it wait till later?" He looked between his legs and pointed to his erection with the phone. "I'm really horny right now, and I don't feel like talking on the phone." Rush kissed him on the cheek and said, "It will only take a minute. I'll be right back. I'll just put on your longer coat, step out the door, and get the paper." Then he stood up and left Lance with the phone in one hand and his cock in the other. When he returned, he was holding the newspaper, wearing nothing but Lance's dark, 3/4-length winter coat. He removed the coat and tossed it over the arm of the wing chair. Then he sat down next to Lance again and opened the paper. Lance said goodbye to Cody and handed the phone back to Rush. Rush asked, "What page?" "4," Cody said. "It's right below an article about some kind of construction work they are doing on Fifth Avenue." While Rush turned to page 4, Lance got up on his knees and rubbed his erection against the side of Rush's face. When Rush looked up at him, Lance smiled and nodded at his penis. Then he smacked it gently on Rush's lips. "What was that sound?" Cody asked. "I heard a smack. Did you drop the phone?" "No," Rush said, trying hard to ignore the erection that was poking the side of his face. "There must be something wrong with the connection." "Do you see the article?" Cody asked. Rush looked down and saw their photo in the middle of the page. "Yes," Rush said. "I'm looking at it right now." It was the same photo the vet had taken with his cell phone. Lance and Cody were standing in front of the Jeep, and the little fawn was still trapped in the grill. The headline read, "Two New York attorneys save fawn." He tried to read the article, because it went on to explain the freak accident, how they'd saved the fawn, and where the fawn was now recuperating.